What do you think when you see this? Traffic problems, diversions and chaos? Or do you see an investment opportunity? From pumps to hazards, from compressors to excavators, someone is making a lot of money supplying this equipment.
There you go, love, cup of tea.
Oh, 2 sugars.
There you go.
Thanks. Ashtead Group was started 52 years ago as a basic plant hire company. It's since grown into a provider of rental equipment needs for over 100,000 customers throughout industry, commerce and local government. It has nearly 350 branches in the UK, US and Far East. Beneath the Ashtead Group umbrella there are 3 companies: Sunbelt Rentals in the US, Ashtead Technology, which was originally established to support the offshore rental markets, and in the UK, Ashtead operates under the name of A-Plant. So what are the company's growth prospects? Well, earlier this year, Ashtead paid $506 million for Rentokil Initial's BET USA. The deal has elevated Sunbelt from being the 10th largest US equipment rental business to the 4th. Now, you've called it the largest acquisition in your company's history. It was in the US. Tell me a little bit more about it.
We've been looking for a major platform acquisition in the United States for almost 3 years. We've been a bit daunted by the prices being charged for these during that time. So we've kissed a lot of frogs until we found our princess, and it has taken a long time. But prices came down this year, and for once, really, it's a case of patience being rewarded. We were able to acquire a business at perhaps half the price it would have sold for a year or more before, and it transforms our business from being outside the top 10 into being the 4th largest player in America, with revenues of in excess of $500 million. The cost was $506 million, which was an EBITDA multiple of about 5 times the historic earnings. It is debt-free, which is a unique experience in America. Almost all the businesses available in America come with great wadges of debt, and 40% of the consideration was provided by way of a convertible bond by the vendor, Rentokil Initial, and the rest we have borrowed from a series of banks, Citibank, Lloyds Bank and Bank America.
Now, the market was quite unnerved when Ashtead said it was to acquire BET. What do you think of the acquisition?
Well, in the UK, Ashtead had already grown to sort of optimum size, and in order to really propel profits forward, as they have been doing for the past 10 or 12 years, they had to take a big leap somewhere, and America was the place, simply because of the fact that they were already there in their subsidiary called Sunbelt. So I thought the deal was very sensible.
The US market still differs a great deal from that in the UK. Through the deal, Ashtead hopes to have also bought the opportunity to convert US mentality from ownership to hiring, something that would greatly benefit the group.
About 15 or 20 years ago in the UK, 70% of all plant was owned and 30% was hired, and in the USA it's still exactly the same, but the difference being that now in the UK 30% of the plant is owned and 70% is hired. Now if Ashtead can actually crack this one in the States, then quite clearly the profits will be absolutely enormous for them.
The market is waiting to see how the business progresses. Ashtead did integrate BET into Sunbelt within 70 days, but time will tell how it continues to run.
It had changed ownership, and the businesses themselves had never been integrated, so it was a series of businesses under different ownership for about 15 years, and what we have done in just a little over 2 months is bring it all together under the Sunbelt banner, under the Sunbelt corporate culture, which is the same as we have in the UK, which is this highly devolved local profit motive in which we enfranchise the local managers really to run their own businesses, and that's quite a big culture change for them over there in this new acquisition, but they've taken to it very well.
Now let's take a good look at the products themselves. Evidence of plant hire is all around us. Temporary traffic lights, roadworks, construction, and business increases with events such as flooding and other extreme weather conditions when pumps and excavators are needed. And it doesn't stop there. High oil prices have their benefits too.
We're seeing our offshore business, which is the largest specialist business of its kind in the world, we're seeing that benefiting enormously now from contracts being let this year, but also next year for both oil and gas exploration. We're dependent on exploration because that feeds to production, and production feeds to maintenance, and all of those things require our equipment. And we're seeing that as a very good thing for that part of our business. And we've just recently invested substantially in an onshore environmental business, which is also high tech, to sit alongside that business. But the oil price, like all clouds, it has its silver lining.
But one of the reasons investors are cautious about plant hire is the 1990s recession, which hit the construction industry hard. Another is the capital-intensive nature of plant hire. So are these fears justified?
Now, I personally feel that the strength of sterling has helped some of the plant hire guys. They're getting more kit for every pound that they spend. The economy in the UK is strong as well, so that's a good sign there. In America, we're still seeing quite a lot of expenditure on construction because of TEA 21, which is the big infrastructure spend in America. So at this particular juncture, Ashtead should be looking quite good. The only problem with such a big capital expenditure program is that, of course, you have the corollary of that, the depreciation side, and that's the bit that people have always been concerned about with Ashtead. I can't think why, because they are very, very good at looking at that side of the business, the balance between capital expenditure and depreciation.
Now let's look at the UK A-Plant. What can we look forward to growth-wise over the next, say, 12 months?
The UK market is much tougher. It's arguably and accepted, I think, by anybody in this industry as being the toughest market of its kind in the world. The lowest rental rates, the most competition. And we have seen some growth last year. Yes, we grew by about 8% last year, and we're showing a 4% revenue growth that we've posted for the first 5 months to the end of September, were the last figures that we've released ahead of January. We see the market growing here at about 3% a year. That compares with market growth in the United States of about 15% in a much less developed market. So the growth will come in the UK, but there will be more rationalisation in the United Kingdom market. There are simply too many players to satisfy everybody's needs.
And that is an important point to bear in mind when looking at a company like this. The industry is obviously set for a certain amount of consolidation, but how is Ashtead expected to fare? Now let's look ahead to the next 12 months. And more to do with the consolidation of the plant hire industry. How is Ashtead going to fare in that respect?
There's still some more to do, but it won't be the quantum one that's really needed to tell people, hey, this is a big plant hire company, we're doing really well. So there'll be bolt-ons in the UK, I think, and plus the integration of the big US acquisition that was made in April this year. So there's plenty of opportunities out there for Ashtead without necessarily having to do another big takeover.
So who does Ashtead perceive to be its greatest competition?
The best local business, and it could be an independent business, it could be a branch of a regional business or a national business. Our judgment is that for any service business, satisfying the customer is absolutely paramount. The customer is in charge of business practice today in a way that's unparalleled in my business experience. The customer has more choice, the customer is better informed, the customer knows what he wants, so you have to meet customer demand. So competition is always about who does that well locally, and that can be a very varied and eclectic mix of types of businesses.
Looking ahead, January the 22nd is when the company releases its interim results. Let's take a look at the company's share price over the past year. And since January 1990, struggling with the recession in the early 90s, but quite a peak by the end of the decade.
Well, if we start off with the core business in the UK, there should be quite a flip from the recent damage created by flooding in the UK. I suspect, in fact, that will give an additional fillip to the figures for the full year, but of course with an interim period ending the 31st of October, it won't have much of an impact. So I'm looking for a very sensible advance in the figures, and of course with maybe just a very, very modest contribution from the new US acquisition. Now the other part of the coin is that with Sunbelt, which is Ashtead's wholly owned American subsidiary, we know that was going very well. Recently I'd heard that trading was up quite substantially, up 50% or more, and that's very encouraging as well. So the main UK business going very well, the American business before the acquisition going well, and hopefully we should see some signs that BET US is being integrated successfully into Sunbelt. I think that around the current price, they should be good value for money. If you put Ashtead on a multiple of 10 times the forecast earnings for the current year, they'd be about 155, 160 pence. So at the moment, at current prices, there's a lot of upside left before we have to start worrying about hitting that kind of price.